Today I will show you the most mathematically optimized version of Orange Quill that can clear 150. In fact, I cleared 146 myself with plenty of spare times and not perfect gear. Unfortunately, the meta is to fish for certain shrines that give you a lot more damage, like the resource shrines. Bosses are bugged, so I'm not gonna finish pushing to 150, but someone can finish the build up and do that. Let's get into the build and all the bugs that make it work, and understanding exactly how to maximize the damage of this build once and for all. There is a lot of misinformation out there. The first thing is the bug with the barrier. What's going on here? Vicious Shield is bugged. It's giving you way more damage than it should. So now we're gonna make a practical example where I have Vicious Shield on, and I'm gonna be dealing damage on this. As you can see, look at the damage numbers. You can see the trillions. All right, now we're gonna take that off. We're gonna check the damage number now. This is the hunter. This is, by the way, the Juggernaut. As you can see, look at this. It's now in the hundreds of millions. Look at that. We've lost 100 times damage. Cool. Why is that? Well, as you can see, you do 1% increased damage for each 3% of your maximum life as a barrier. Unfortunately, because barrier is based on max life, when you scale your life, as you can see now I have 12,000 here. If I drink my potion, I will have more. 15,000. If you scale your life, you also scale your maximum barrier. So my understanding is that this paragon node is based on your base life, base barrier, but because we scale with our max life, we are doing 100 times more damage. That's one bug. The second bug is actually the Jugger main hole is double dipping. It is either double dipping or stacking on itself. I'm not 100% sure, but we are sure it's bugged and doing way more damage than it should be doing. That's why attack speed and attack speed breakpoints are very important in this build. So the next thing we're going to be talking about actually is the attack speed breakpoint that you should be having in this build. What is that? Let's get into that. Now, my attack speed here in town will be 79%. 79% plus Moonrise 20% will mean 99% attack speed. If you have 99% attack speed plus 13 ferocity stack, which you obtain with a ferocity stack aspect, plus using your the hunter, you get 13 stacks, you reach exactly an attack speed breakpoint that is important. Technically, you would need 0.4 less attack speed or something like that, but it's very important that you don't get less than 99% attack speed. 99% base attack speed is important. You need to get that straight up. And then you need to cap your ferocity stacks. That's the TLDR for attack speed. You don't really need to worry much about that. The second thing that is important about this build is barrier. How much barrier do we need to have? Correctly, it is 123%, 123% barrier. With 123% barrier, with our bulwark, which we have on runes, so you can have it on weapon or wherever you want, bulwark is 45% of your life. If you have 123% max barrier extra, you will cap your HP. Again, because this paragon node is bugged, capping your barrier is extremely important. How do you cap your barrier? Well, what I do for most people is to have Soul Brand in the build as a good idea, because most people run around without their barrier capped, which is a tragedy. There are other ways to do it, but it is inconvenient and most people will not have the type of gear needed for that. For example, running a lot of barrier generation on plus 12 items. Barrier generation, barrier generation, barrier generation, and then having 4 purple gems. And with that, as you can see, plus very high paragon, you get barrier, 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 barrier. I have 123% barrier generation. If you cannot cap your barrier generation, you're gonna have to play with Soul Brand. That's why Soul Brand is in the build. That's why the misconception are coming from. Why you're giving us one build but you're using a different one? Well, it's because you don't have the items that I will show you in a second. There are also other important factors in the build, like for example, your maximum resources. You need to have enough so that the Banished Door Talisman procs on every attack. Now, you do not actually need 275. You need a combination of maximum resources plus enough resource generation. In my case, with 1 resource generation on ring plus 1 resource generation, 2 points in resource generation on my talent board, I reached that point. It's very specific. So a lot of times people ask me, Ace, why is my build not working? Well, that's why I put Jan's Blessing in your builds, because Jan's Blessing guarantees that this stuff will work for you guys. Another good way to get to maximum resources, enough to play the build, is to play with a Legendary Helmet or to use Thibault's Will. I, with 100 Paragon Glyph, my glyph is maxed out at 100, I do not necessarily need to do that. All I have to do is what I showed you. And that explains the resource part of the build. Then, of course, there is also the resource generation from Midnight, but this is more basic. I think everyone knows it. There is a calculator in all of my builds where you can calculate how much resource you have. You need to get this 50% to be 100%. And now, finally, we're gonna get into the very real min-maxed version of the build. Now, this gear only works if everything is perfect. The biggest thing is this. My gloves do not have attack speed on them. Dexterity is actually a huge damage multiplier for us, and so is Max Life and Quill ranks. If you have a triple GA Masterwork plus 12 attack speed ring, then you do not need to have attack speed on your gloves. Anything else than that, you need to have attack speed on your gloves, or you're not gonna be reaching attack speed cap. Because the max life and the core skills on the Banished Door Talisman are extremely important. You need to have GA attack speed here and a triple attack speed. Only with that and every single attack speed node and attack speed rare node cap obtained, including the 1,600 dexterity here, only with that you can reach the promised land of 79% attack speed plus Moonrise 99%. If you do not have this gear, you're gonna have to use attack speed on your gloves. So I'm gonna put a version of the build that is like 80% min-maxed, that has attack speed on the gloves, and then I will put the super mega giga tryhard stuff. Another example would be, for example, this is my boots, so should have all res. I'm not gonna cap my resistances without all res. I do not have all res. I have so much perfect rolls that I can survive without my resistances capped. My resistances are this, as you can see. My armor is even too high. See how I have armor on these pants? They're actually incorrect for the perfect build. It would actually have to be dexterity instead of armor to go max damage. And yes, you would survive on the best build. But again, on the planner, I'm gonna have armor on the pants, I'm gonna have magic resistances on the boots, I'm gonna have attack speed on the gloves instead of dexterity. That's because I do not expect you guys to have exactly the perfect gear. But if you want, that's the way. On top of that, the chest. The real difference between most builds that are slightly incorrect and the exactly correct build is the defensive skill ranks on the chest. Why are they important? They are very important because we obtain more ranks on Scourge. The more ranks we have on Scourge, with Prodigy's Tempo, we recover the cooldown of Scourge faster. That is important because mathematically, it is better to run this 40% multiplier than the 20% multiplier people are running. By using this, I'm also saving 4 points on my Armored Hide. And I don't think I need to tell you that 4 extra talent points are gonna be a lot of extra damage on your build. So technically, this is the best possible chest. Dex, max life, and then defensive skills. Now, I do not have perfect temperings. I don't have 3 maximum resolve stacks on every piece, but you have to forgive me on that. Also, these gloves here, I would suggest that a gloves with max life attack speed or max life dexterity buy these instead of buying Quill ranks. A Quill rank gloves with just Quill ranks GA is over 10 billion gold. My gold is this gloves here is like 500 million. And I'm only losing one rank, which is like 5% damage. It's not worth to buy it. Literally, the item that the guy cleared 146 like me, that Chinese player that has a similar version, cost more than my entire build. Like, his gloves cost twice my entire build. Same reason I would suggest, instead of buying a 60% Banished Lord Talisman, which cost more than my house, buy a 56% Banished Lord Talisman. Now, let's do a quick recap of the items once and for all. Harmony of Ebewaka. In this case, Harmony of Ebewaka is better to run. We have all stats on it, and all stats are good. It helps you cap legendary nodes on the board, so we need that. If you run if you run Thibault's Will, which gives you all stats and gives you resources, then you can run this legendary helm. The reason why I put this in some builds is because the difference is that Ebewaka doesn't have resources. Meanwhile, Thibault's and legendary helm do, making the build easier to get online for normal people. If you try this build, very likely for you it's not gonna work, but I will give you the build. Harmony of Ebewaka. Damage reduction, all stats GAs are good. Movement speed is wrong. Chest, we already talked about it. Gloves, we talked about it already. Pants, I have vortex size on it because I cap a barrier slightly, so I can afford one vortex size. Vortex size is really strong. You could go for CC, but vortex size actually is better because, trust me, the pull range makes a huge difference in clear speed. With apprehension. For the boots, I cap movement speed by having double masterwork on boots. And this way we cap move speed, GG. Very important because move speed gives you damage. We have Rod of Kapeleka. The only two GAs that matter are critical strike damage and maximum resources. You should have 3 GA on maximum resources because critical strike damage actually does not matter. We have so much additive damage that isn't visible to you guys. The overpowered damage you see here, the 900,000, is actually way more than that. We have overpowered damage based on our max life. I don't know if every point of max life counts as one overpower, I'm not sure. But we have thousands of invisible overpowered damage that you do not see. So pretty much additive damage for this build does not do anything. Max life is super important, as you now can understand, for the build. Again, ferocity on it. We talked about apprehension. Rod of Kapeleka, we talked about it. You should have triple maximum resource here. Anything else here doesn't matter. Chance for core skill to hit twice does not work. It's bugged, no reason to put it. So just pick one with 3% and maximum resources and be done with it. Banished Lord Talisman. Overpowered damage does not matter. So I would suggest you get max life, attack speed, core skill, GA, and a 60% or 56% aspect. Ignore the overpower. The ring matters a lot. Kinda need triple GA on it. The Midnight Sun, the only thing that matters is dexterity. You can have critical strike damage on it if you want a GA, but the rest really it's fluff. For the talents, we're gonna go and take a quick look. One extra point in Vigorous. Pam pam pam. Vortex. Apex. I take points in Unrestrained Power for more damage. I do take Perseverance because we run low on resistances and armor, and this extra damage reduction from all the resolve stacks really matters in this version of the build. 1 point in Scourge, you get 4 from the ranks, and you also get 4 points from the ranks on the chest. Huge! 10% block means more damage, because of course we are running extra block per resolve stack, which combos well with Redirected Force. Unfortunately, my aspect is not 70%. I'm losing a huge chunk of damage there. Anti-Venom, 1 point. 3 points in Brilliance. Resilient, 3 points because max life scales your damage. Dominant. Full points, Potent Furnace. Full points. 1 point, Deer Hunter, and the Prodigy's Temple. The Paragon board is exactly optimized for my gear. You can take a look at it. We have Colossal on the first one. I do not have enough Paragon points to get more stuff, or I would get more points around here. You know, those points, I will take them. I take the Barrier Generation because I need it so I can run Soar. I do not need to take this one because I'm already Barrier Generation capped. But the Paragon board I'm gonna leave on Mobilitics is gonna be a little bit more lax. Like I explained. It will have the Barrier Generation rolls. If you have more than 123, take it off. You need to be able to make small adjustments, because this guide is now explaining you every mechanic so that you can min-max the build for yourself. I'm not taking the armor because I already cap or close to cap. I have Manager Race here, of course, and you can see all my nodes are active. All my nodes are active here. Everything is fine. And here I'm missing a little bit of strength, but I obtained that, the extra strength here I'm missing. I obtain it when I use my incense, so I don't actually need it. If you do not have the incense, you're gonna be blocking this. But you can also move the points around if you want on the board and having it always active. Getting 10 extra strength, removing a little bit of dexterity, it's not an issue. But of course, if you're trying to min-max the build, then you would cap this with the incense. If you're wondering which instance I'm talking about, it is the Chorus of War, which gives you extra 40 all stats, or you could have 1 or 2 rolls of Masterwork on the Harmony of Ebewaka. So this is what I'm gonna have on the build. Everything has been explained. This is the end of the build. I'll be moving on to Touch of Death, and maybe Touch of Death could be a stronger build than this one. Again, the credit goes to me and Sanctum. More to Sanctum. Sanctum is really a beast when it comes to this stuff. It's been a pleasure to theorycraft with Sanctum for this build. We have done amazing work together. Love working with the guy. We'll keep doing it in the future. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. See you on the next build.